On today's show, Gran Turismo 5 reviewed, part 1. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Jessica Lopez.
I'm Darren Ganji.
And this is Gran Turismo 5. Here it is. Finally.
Long time coming.
Long time coming. Since we started the show, we've been chasing this game down.
All over the world.
That is right.
Andreas at Gamescom in Germany. You guys in Vegas a couple weeks back.
E3 2 years ago.
CES. Game Developers Conference 2 years in a row. We've just been chasing this title everywhere. It's like surreal that it's finally here.
It is. And we have our copies, obviously. It's here. The guys have been playing it nonstop for 2 weeks now. They got it the day before its actual release. And they're still not even 50% into the game, or just about 50%.
I checked the other night, I was about 38%, and then last night I ran a few rallies and a few other things. So I'm probably getting close to about 50.
I just started my career, so I'm still like in 1%.
Yeah, and Sean's 20, 30%, Tommy's 20, 30%, Andrea did 5% or so. So we've all been playing, but we still haven't even got halfway through this.
There's a lot to this game, and due to the fact that we haven't got halfway through it, we are not putting this on the Shabami today. We will review it for you, but this is part 1 of our review.
Yeah, we're going to give you guys some wheel settings, show you guys which wheels work, which wheels don't, stuff like that. Top sim cars.
Yep, and even Tommy put a segment together about how to get started in GT5 and kind of a walkthrough.
But before all of that, we have a new segment starring Jessica Lopez called The Pit Stop.
That's right, and it's just a bunch of top stories and hot news for the week. So here I am with The Pit Stop.
The Pit Stop with Jessica Lopez, brought to you by iRacing.com.
Welcome to The Pit Stop, sponsored by iRacing.com. First up, we have Spa-Francorchamps, which is currently being worked on and is probably the most anticipated road course over at iRacing. It will be available for pre-order beginning December 6th, and you can drive it starting December 21st. And on that same day, a car that has been modeled after Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Camaro, the Street Stock. That also releases on the 21st of December and is available for free to all iRacing members. As a matter of fact, you were just watching some footage of that. And speaking of Dale, the final race of the NASCAR season just took place. Check out Dale presenting Richard Towler of England with a championship ring, this trophy, and a check for $10,000. Congratulations to Richard for winning the inaugural iRacing NASCAR World Championship. It's amazing that sim racers can win $10,000 nowadays. Next up, for those of you who've been playing GT5, you may have noticed as you were going through the wheel options, this image of a Thrustmaster, which you're looking at here. And it's actually spelled the Thrustmaster. I don't know, maybe Sony Polyphony misspelled it, but it is a new wheel that is coming soon, and it's called the T500 RS. We don't have much information about the wheel yet, but we have been in contact with our Thrustmaster representative, and we will be getting one on the show, so stay tuned for that. And speaking of wheels, the Porsche 911 Turbo S and the GT3 RS had a baby. Here it is. Isn't it beautiful? She has my eyes. This wheel is the GT2, and we're going to be using this for our Gran Turismo 5 review. And this baby will be compatible with the Xbox 360, the PS3, and the PC. For those of you interested in learning more about the GT2, make sure you check out Darren's first look here on our YouTube channel, Sim Racing Tonight. In addition, we'll be reviewing this on a future episode of Inside Sim Racing, so stay tuned for that. And for those of you who own an Xbox 360, the 911 Turbo S is sold out, as you may have noticed. And we don't know exactly yet when this will be available to the public, but we'll keep you posted. The last story on a pit stop today is from Gran Turismo. The GT Academy registration is beginning December the 6th, and it's open to United States only. Previous GT Academy was only available in Europe, so we're happy to have it here in the US. So get out there and register if you're interested, and the winner will be racing a real car. Seems like a lot of developers are putting sim racers into cars nowadays, so get out there and take your shot. You've been fueled, and the pit stop has been sponsored by iRacing.com, where they have tons of holiday specials going on. Click on the banner at our website if you want to take advantage of those specials. It's now time for our top simulation cars of all time.
Gran Turismo 5 special edition of Top Sim Cars.
And the first time Gran Turismo has been on TSC.
TSC, you got it right? Yeah, exactly.
I confused you, huh?
Yeah, I was confused there. But yeah, it is the first time. And the reason why we haven't is because, funny thing is, haven't because of the lack of damage. And funny thing is, damage didn't really help their scores much. But nonetheless.
I did notice there's not a lot of damage with these cars, but we are able to include them now, and that's pretty exciting. And you picked a car, and so did Sean, correct?
That's right.
So here you go, 2 cars from Gran Turismo 5 on top simulation cars of all time.
All right, welcome to Top Simulation Cars of All Time, Gran Turismo 5 edition.
Finally.
Finally. Lots of people have been requesting why haven't you put Gran Turismo cars on Top Sim Car list?
That's a good question.
It's a great question. And the reason why we hadn't is because they didn't have any damage.
At all.
Yeah. So we decided to wait for damage, and I'm not sure why we did.
Well, because it'll be a score killer. I mean, without damage, you just don't have a complete
You would
sim
think,
car.
but damage didn't really help him much in this case. But anyway, let's get to it. First up, we have the Audi R8 5.2 Quattro.
The V10 version. I picked this car.
Yep.
You know, we both got to pick a car that we add to the list, hopefully. And for me, I wanted something exotic, but Ferrari just seems so obvious. And then this is just a car that I love. I mean, I see them on the street. It's a car that I think is obtainable by most, maybe not the V10 variation.
Basically a coupe that's got Lamborghini heritage.
Yeah, it's got the same, well, not the same, but it's based on the same motor. 518 horsepower in this variation. And like you said, the Lamborghini under chassis, it's the same unibody underneath it. So it's sort of the touring Lamborghini.
You know, another odd thing about both of us selecting a car here is we both picked four-wheel drive cars.
Completely randomly.
Completely randomly. Mine was based on rally, and we'll get to that in a minute, but Sean's is based on just badass car.
Yeah, this is the ultimate driving car. I mean, you can just drive it anywhere, every day, hammer on it, and it drives like a supercar.
Yep.
And you want to just get to scores? I mean, that's the important thing.
Why don't I? Physics, 16 and a half. Sounds, 11 and 3/4. Models, 10. Cockpit, 9 and a half. Fun factor, 8 and a quarter. Immersive, 8 and a quarter. Force feedback realism, 9. Damage, 3/4 of a point. Skins, 2. Default set, 4 and 3/4. Total, 80 and 3/4. And really quick, while I'm thinking about it, I don't want to lose track. Skins is where it got killed too.
Yeah.
2 out of 5. Can't paint these cars. You're only given the option of colors. So it's kind of a bummer. You know, there's really no customization to these things other than you can just change the color and the rim color on most cars, premium cars, and you can or you can change the rims.
Yeah, but that's really it as far as personalization goes.
Yep.
And then the other is damage.
Yep. We figured it out. We added 5 and 5 to both damage and skins because you know all you Gran Turismo guys. By the way, we are Gran Turismo guys too. We're going to tell you all about it here in the rest of our review, but we love this game for the most part. It has its flaws just like every piece of software, but we're here to point them out as long as as well as the really cool stuff. But where it really got hurt was that damage and skins. If it would have scored 5 and 5 on both of those categories, top 20.
Yeah, easily.
And we're pretty much going to happen the same way with the next car that we do. But anyway, that's going to do it for this car, the Audi R8. Any final words on?
No, this is definitely
supercar?
Everything about it. I mean, the modeling is, for me, looking on the outside, it is absolutely one of the most gorgeous cars in the game, I think. And so it was very easy for me to pick that one.
And my final thoughts, I left on a con. I'm going to end it on a pro here. One of the, if not the best models in sim racing, in racing games, period. Cockpit's amazing. The physics have really been enhanced in Gran Turismo 5, as well as the force feedback. Some of the best on the console. So kudos to this car. Must have.
Yeah. So what's your pick for Top Sim Car?
The Subaru WRX Oh, there's so many letters involved with this car, it's ridiculous kind of. But anyway, it's a blast to drive the Subaru. I bought it because of the special events. You needed to buy, in the second tier, you needed to have 347 horsepower.
Right,
or
under.
To, or under. And I thought, hey, I want a Subaru or a Mitsubishi. Ended up with the Subaru 2010. Let's switch over to that.
All right. Well, for me in the game, it was kind of lucky because you had already told me this was the trick to winning that part of the game.
Yep.
So I knew in advance to buy that car in particular because we were going to do it on Top Sim Car, but a great choice for that event.
Yeah, it is. That thing dominated that event, as a matter of fact. Make sure you put the soft tires on the tarmac running that event if you're going to go with this car. But man, this car was a blast in the dirt. Forced feedback was just incredible. Physics really nicely done. Rally overall in Gran Turismo, I would have liked the stages to be a little tighter, but what a great car. Great model. I mean, look at it. It's just beautiful model. Very nicely done.
I think the rally racing, and that carried over to this car in Gran Turismo, is one of the things that really shows off the force feedback very well.
Yeah.
So this car demonstrated as well as anything in the game, I think.
Absolutely. Let's roll right to the scores.
Okay.
Both Gran Turismo cars, we don't have to go too much into detail here.
And there's not going to be a whole lot of difference between them, but there
No.
are some slight differences. Physics, 17. Sounds, 11 3/4. Models, 9 3/4. Cockpit, 9. Fun factor, 9. Immersive, 8 3/4. Force feedback realism, 9. Damage, 3/4. Skins, 2. And default set, 5. Giving the Subaru an overall score of 82.
Which puts both these cars pretty far down the list. Honestly, I don't have the number right here, but barely made the top 50. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's the damage in the skins that killed it. So that's going to do it for Top Simulation Cars, Gran Turismo 5 Edition. Please, guys, Gran Turismo guys, please don't throw too many stones at us.
Oh, come on, they're on the list. 2 cars, just
Yeah.
like that.
With the weak damage. Come on, you guys got to admit that damage is horrible.
Oh.
So anyway, that's going to do it. Top Sim Cars of all time.
Time to get started in Gran Turismo 5, and Tom is going to walk everyone through with sort of a tour that he put together.
That's a good way
about
to
the
put
game.
it. Yeah, with some tips. He throws a few tips along the way as far as some things that you can do to enhance your experience.
And Gran Turismo was actually the very first game that got Tom started in sim racing.
Yeah, he bought a DFP, Driving Force Pro wheel. Noticed that it had a USB connection on it and plugged it into the PC after getting some use on it with Gran Turismo, and
A sim racer was born.
that's right.
So here's Tom showing you guys a walkthrough of Gran Turismo 5.
Hi, I'm Tom Hackey, and what you see behind me is Gran Turismo 5. Before we start the in-depth review, I'm going to walk you through this expansive title, and I'll start from the bottom and work my way up and hopefully show you some things that you may not know even if you already own the game. Before you start playing, you should remember that there is an installation and update process that takes about an hour, so don't get too frustrated when you can't play it right away. Starting with the first screen we see, on the far right we have a save button, an options button where you can set up audio, video, wheel and pedal, and other settings, and a manual button. The manual is pretty good, but may leave you guessing about specific details. The next one over is Gran Turismo TV. Here you can watch clips about real-world racing, GT videos that Sony puts out, and even buy videos from other producers like Best Motoring. Pretty cool stuff, and it loads rather quickly for high-def content. Next up, we have the Course Maker. This is where you can choose a type of road surface and a general location and roughly influence the creation of a new track by choosing number of sectors and the complexity of these sectors, as well as general weather and time option. Now, I think it should be called the Course Generator because you could never make a specific track, but despite that fact, it is a fun tool and you can save and share your tracks later. Next is Arcade Mode. This is the place to jump quickly into a race if you only have a few minutes to spend, or to let your friends try the game, or to have a 2-player battle locally. You choose a basic skill level and a track, and then you jump into a car. There are either arcade-only cars or ones you've unlocked in GT mode or on your PSP version of the game. Before we move on to the main section of the game, you should note the news section from Sony in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Important info about the game will show up here from time to time, so make sure to glance up there once in a while. Now we're in GT mode. This is where the meat of the game is. Much of this will look familiar to GT4 players as it uses roughly the same layout and concept. The first time you boot the game into GT mode, it will walk you through a character creation screen. You can change these settings later if you mess up, so don't worry about it. After that, and starting at the main page, we have a menu bar on the left of the screen. At the far left, you'll notice the same save and manual buttons with a slightly beefier options menu offering design and player setting menus, as well as the usual option. Just to the right of that, you have 8 buttons. The items button contains items you've unlocked that you can use to customize your car. The garage is where all your cars live. The photo album houses all the in-game photos you've taken in either photo mode, which is accessible during replay, or photo travel. The drivers list has your fictional B-Spec drivers, the replay theater for those amazing races you just had to save, the music library, which lets you fine-tune the songs you hear at different stages of the game, the museum, which displays cards you collect that contain stories of auto manufacturers and their cars, and the course list showing the tracks you've made in the course maker. Above those buttons is the community tab. This houses ways to interact with your friends that are also playing Gran Turismo. There are message boards, a log of your progress, in-game email, a list of gifts that other people have given you, which includes cars, and a place called the Lounge that allows you to participate in or watch races with your friends. The next tab up is the Profile tab. This lets you see the stats of all your PSN friends who play GT5. You can see everything from what level they are in both A and B spec modes, their favorite cars, their trophies earned, and their game progress, to their B spec drivers and GT Life layout. When you click on their name, you will also notice that some of the 8 buttons on the bottom also remain lit, enabling you to see their photo album and their course list, and even download the pictures they've taken and the tracks they've generated. Now on to the big section of the game where you will be spending most of your time. The GT Life tab contains all you need to start and progress through your driving career on GT5. First, notice the status bar at the very top of the screen. This will tell you your level on both A and B spec, your credits earned, the car you are currently in, and the time and date. This is useful for easily tracking your progress through the game. Directly below that are the A and B spec tabs. Simply put, A spec is for those times you'd like to be the driver and the hero of the day as you drive your car to victory. And B spec is when you'd like to be a team director, barking orders at your driver from the pits. Let's take a look at A spec first. In A spec, you'll have the option of what difficulty of series you'll be running in. At first, you'll only be able to select a beginner, but after a while you'll unlock the higher ranked races. As you enter races, they will have license, level, and car requirements, as well as occasionally having car setup requirements like limitations on tires, horsepower, or drivetrain. As you enter the race series menu, you'll notice it has a garage button on the far right. This lets you quickly and easily see what cars you have that qualifies for the series you're trying to enter. After you've secured your car, enter the race you want. Once the track loads up, you'll see the starting grid and the start race, driving options, and setup options for your car, and the exit button if you chicken out. When you're in the race, there is a pause menu that is important. It's called Quick Options, and among some UI tweaks, there's a very important feature called Interior View Angle. This is basically a rough 3-step field of view modification, and while set to wide initially, I find setting it to zoom gives you a better interior view much closer to what you perceive in a real car. Once your race is finished, you'll see the option to watch or save your replay. If you like, these replays give you a wealth of telemetry and timing data that can be used to improve your driving, as well as the option to enter photo mode, which for a photographer like me is fantastic fun. And again, these photos are shareable and exportable just like GT4. Now on to B spec. B spec mode will look very similar to A spec mode, and it even uses the cars you own. The big difference here is you create a driver that will be driving your cars and send him off to races while giving him commands on what to do on the track. Before you enter a race, you'll be prompted to choose a driver you've created. Once you're in the race, you'll be watching the race from the sidelines with a view that looks very similar to the replay views, including all the telemetry. The big difference is the radio button you will use for issuing commands. The commands you can give are overtake, pace up, maintain pace, and pace down. There's also a driver aggravation meter, and as your driver is involved in more tense situations, or if you ask him to pace up too often, he will be aggressive and become a bit faster, but also have a greater chance of making mistakes. This is a game of patience and balance, just as being in the driver's seat is. As you progress through B-Spec mode, and starting at level 5, you can even add more drivers to your roster. To the side of the A and the B-Spec buttons is the online lobby portion of the game. You can join or host a race with your choice of race parameters and car limits. You can voice or text chat or even race for pink slips. And while there is a 16-player max per race, online play is an extremely fun and welcome addition to GT5. Back on the home screen are several smaller icons under the A and B spec modes. The first is special events. This is a mixture of challenges and learning experiences that you play through. They are sometimes a bit harder than what you might be used to at your particular level, but they reward you well with credits and experience points if you are successful. New portions of each special event will be unlocked as you continue to level up. Next come the license tests. Along with the level you achieve, there are also license requirements for racing. These license tests will walk you through driving lessons and incrementally teach you how to performance drive. If you are new to the sport, this is the place to start. The GT4 driving school was the very first thing I drove with a wheel and is a great breeding ground for new sim racers. Experienced drivers will find a majority of the beginning tests easy, but the higher levels will require serious concentration. Past that, you've got your dealership and used car lot. This is where you find your cars for various challenges. I bought my first car at the dealership new, but you could probably save money buying a used one and building it up in the tuning shop. Also, the used car dealership is always getting more cars in, and sometimes you will need to wait to find the right car to do certain events. I'm talking to you, Japanese Classics Race. The practice button will let you test any car you own at any track you have unlocked. A handy tool when you just want to have some fun or turn endless laps at the ring. Below practice is GT Auto, Tuning Shop, and Photo Travel. GT Auto lets you maintain your cars. They will get dirty, they will need an oil change, and even need a chassis stiffening or engine rebuild after time. Don't neglect your cars, they'll lose performance. And here's a little tip. After you buy a used car, change its oil and rebuild its engine. You'll get a few more horsepower out of it. This is also the place you can go to paint your car, buy different wheels, and add aero packages to it. Do be aware some standard cars do have a limited add-on ability. Darren bought a new Camaro, and it was a standard car, and he couldn't add rims or paint rims, and the only thing he could add was this big tail. So beware of that. The tuning shop is where you will spend way too much of your hard-earned credits on upgrading your cars to make them faster. They've made it easy here, so start with the bottom and work your way up. As you buy new parts for your cars, you will unlock adjustment options in the setup menu just before a race, so don't forget to check that and adjust your car to your liking. Last of those is the photo travel icon. In here you can position your cars in a few picturesque locations and take awesome photos of them. Finally, in the lower left-hand corner is the car delivery icon. As you level up and win championships, this is where you'll find your winnings. Even after all of that information, though, we have just scratched the surface of this game. I've put in about 30 hours and I'm at less than 20% through. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to play it all the way through to 100%. And hey, if you want to race me online, my PSN is TOMAMAFONE and is pronounced Tomamaphone. So there it is.
iRacing.com is the premier online racing simulation featuring head-to-head competition on your PC. Race from your home PC, competing on the world's best real-world cars and tracks. Thousands of race fans and scores of pro racers like Dale Jr. and Justin Wilson are already racing at iRacing. Experience the thrill of victory yourself and go racing today at iRacing.com.
So the time has finally come for Sean and Darren to tell you guys their thoughts on Gran Turismo 5. But before we get into that segment, you guys might notice that both of them are wearing some sort of device across their neck and chest here. Why don't you tell everyone out there what they're going to be looking at?
Yeah, what that is, it's called the Core Effects, and basically it sends sound waves or vibrations into your chest cavity, and it's pretty awesome.
And I missed it. I was in here. I barely missed.
By about an hour.
Yep, by an hour.
You'll see when we're going to have them in here again a lot.
We're going to be reviewing it actually later on in the show, and Sean actually interviewed the inventor, which we'll have for you in a few weeks. Shahryar Afshar,
and cool guy.
And thank you for coming down and bringing your product.
Yeah, and for letting us check it out with Gran Turismo 5, which, by the way, it worked great with. So you can pre-order them now at his site for $189.99.
Yep, and that's immerse.com, and that's IMMERZ.com. And so I guess we reached the time that a lot of our viewers have been asking for.
No
Your
shabammy.
opinion.
Yeah, no shabammy, but opinions. You know what, real quick again, I'm just going to say, we just wanted to give this title a lot more time, and we're still going to give it more time. We're going to shabammy it in the future, just like we have with some other deep titles, iRacing, F1 2010, Forza. We had it for at least a month, so we want to have this so we're going to give it some more time.
We just have to unleash all the vehicles first, so.
Yeah, or at least half of them.
So here's Sean and Darren reviewing Gran Turismo 5.
So Tommy told you all about the game, and it's up to us to tell you what we think and how it all worked. But before we get to that, it's important to know what wheel you have out there and how it might work with the game.
Before we get to that, I'm going to tell you what we ran all this stuff in. And we used the GamePod GT2 for our rig, hooked up with a butt kicker. Main testing was done with the new Fanatic GT2 wheel.
So it's the whole GT2 everything.
Yep, GT2 is the common theme here. Fanatic 6-speed shifter with a new prototype mount for the GamePod. Also a new prototype pedal mount that we're able to hook up the Club Sport pedals to, which we're going to get to make this game. But there's a setup. Awesome rig for Gran Turismo 5.
So we kind of let the cat out of the bag because we've just described the ultimate Gran Turismo rig.
Yep. So back to what Sean was getting at, we're going to go through what wheels are compatible, which aren't, or which kind of were, and
including the ones that people speculated would or wouldn't work. So,
and aren't listed in the setup screen.
Yeah, or for some reason one model is and another model isn't.
Yep.
And that brings us to the Thrustmaster.
What's up with the spelling, guys? You guys left an extra T here in the game. But
And I'm not talking T500 yet. I'm talking F430 wheel. This is the wheel that you might already have, a great force feedback wheel, and when it gets to using it in Gran Turismo,
not so great.
Not so great. Yeah, you've got weak overall force feedback. You do have functionality in that the wheel works, the gas and brake work, you're going to be able to shift the gears, use some of the buttons.
And the force feedback is there. Rumble effects, hit the wall, and it definitely affects the wheel, but not like the other wheels we're going to mention.
No, and you do have a direction pad, which when working on the PlayStation is essential, but you're missing the X button and the back button.
Which you can use the gas and the brake pedal for, but you can't use this wheel in the PlayStation 3 menus. You have to have the game booted up, and then I guess some kind of driver boots up or something. So, kind of weak there.
It'll work. So if you have one, it shouldn't discourage you. Just a little bit of workaround.
And I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, if you're looking to buy a wheel for Gran Turismo 5, do not get this one.
No.
Stay away from it, as a matter of fact. Sorry to Thrustmaster.
Yeah, but don't they have another wheel?
The T500 RS, which we will hopefully have on the show. Actually, I've been told we're going to have on the show here soon, so stay tuned for our look at that, and we'll be showing it to you with Gran Turismo since it's an official Gran Turismo wheel. So next up, the Logitechs.
All right.
We tested the DFP, the DFGT, the G27, and I was going to try out the Momo, but it didn't have a D-pad, so I said forget it, not even worth the try.
Nope, not going to cut it.
So don't recommend that one for it. So what you tell them about the DFGT for starters?
Okay, the DFGT, I mean, if you didn't figure it out, the name GT, the logo on the center wheel, the horn button on the center. This is a wheel that was specifically made for Gran Turismo.
Yep.
And it is 100% functional, including the radio dial, which allows you to adjust settings like traction control, ABS, on the fly in the game and through the game.
Got the PS button, great force feedback. Great to have that tuning dial. I mean, that is really cool feature to have with Gran Turismo.
And all the buttons are pre-mapped. So, I mean, you got a button for your windshield wipers, your headlights. I mean, it's well matched with the game.
And very plug and playable. And it's a great starter wheel. But major dead zone issue. This thing's like driving a 1970 Cadillac. And the pedals, man, that brake is so touchy, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you breathe on it, that's enough to get braking for most corners. And if you touch it, you've probably gone too far.
Yep, and then let's go back to its older cousin, brother, whatever you want to call it, the DFP.
Yeah.
Again, fully compatible, except doesn't have that red dial. Same touchy brake. That major dead zone. Good force feedback outside that dead zone. 900 degrees of rotation, which boots it into that mode automatically, and then there's a way you can boot it or change it to 200 degrees of rotation. But you push select R3 and the right paddle shifter and it'll change rotations for you.
And you hear it inside even clicking.
Yep. So that's that wheel, and then the G25 and 27.
Well, we didn't actually use a G25 because, well, we lent out all of our G25s. We did use a G27, and it is 100% functional.
Yep.
So it's not listed in-game. I've seen a bunch of people in forums talking about this game. Does it work?
Asking us
the wheel.
questions.
Yeah, and it does in fact work completely. The clutch works, the stick shift works, all of the buttons work. You've got the directional button as well. So you do not need to plug in a controller. You've got everything you need in the wheel.
As long as it's all plugged in, you push the clutch, it goes into full clutch mode, which is probably one of the touchiest clutch modes in all of sim racing.
Yeah, if you shift before clutch, you get nothing. You better start over again.
Yep, push that clutch all the way in, have it in neutral, then put it in gear.
And just to give you an idea how much it does work with the game, even the LED shift light indicator works.
Yep.
So that's driven by the game, obviously.
Fully compatible, but not fully supported in menus.
Right. And then we have the same issue that the Logitech family across the board had, which was the dead zone issue and the extremely touchy brake pedal, because even the G27 brake pedal did the exact same thing. Just touch it and you've already locked up the brakes.
Yep. So that brings us to last but not least, the Fanatics. Now we tried all the new lines. The older lines are the ones that are out of, that have been discontinued, we didn't really focus on. So the Turbo S we didn't focus on. Fully functional, works great with it. We did try it, but we mainly focused on the GT2, the GT3 RS, and the Carrera. All fully functional. Put it in PS3 mode. Everything works, fully functional. The 6-speed shifter, clutch, the works. And one of the best things is if you have a set of club sports, that touchy brake thing will go away for you.
Now it's cheating. I mean, in most sims, I'd make the argument, oh, somebody could learn a regular pedal. Now you're just cheating. If you have Club Sport brake pedal in Gran Turismo, you have an unfair advantage on everybody.
Yep, you sure do. Another thing the Fanatics have over these other wheels is adjusting it through the tuning menu on the fly. Force feedback, sensitivity, dead zone. There's no dead zone on this wheel.
No.
It is very precise. I'm just gonna go out and say, by far, the best package for Gran Turismo 5.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it when you described the rig, and I really believed it when you said it all. I thought, I cannot really tell anybody a better rig for this scenario.
No, it's just incredible. The pedals that brake, the ability to adjust, you know, the sensitivity of that brake with that potentiometer is just amazing. So, and I love, for more of the driving simulators, more of the track day sims, I love the Fanatic wheels because they just have a real car feel to them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So there's your wheel setups. Also stay tuned here at Inside Sim Racing. I'm going to do a short video on a buyer's guide for Gran Turismo 5 and what wheels are best for budget, middle of the road, or if you don't have a budget.
There you go.
So now that we're all set up, showed you what we used to test with and what we feel is the best wheel out there for Gran Turismo, now it's time for the review. Long time coming.
We're gonna get in some trouble.
Probably.
No avoiding it.
We're gonna get in trouble from the people that, this game is just really, you know, I've seen back and forth, people love it and there's people that hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna probably make both of them mad.
Yeah, one way or another.
So first off, I want to talk about a little bit about the standard and premium cars. So I'm going to start on a low note really here. I'm not really thrilled that after 5 years of development that there's only 200 plus premium cars and 800 plus standard cars.
And there's a major difference between the two. It's not just like, you know, a little graphic difference. It's like, no, major differences.
Major difference, yeah. And I would have loved to have seen 500 premium cars versus the 1,000 plus cars. That's just me. So that's, I'm going to start with a little bit of a gripe there. Then I'm going to go on probably one of the highest points of this game. By the way, we're not shabamming it yet. This is part 1 of our review. Part 2 is coming later on down the road, probably early next year. But next thing on a high, graphics.
The graphics are out of this world. I mean, to imagine these being on a PS3 when this is blowing away anything I can bring to mind on the PC even. So this is just, I mean, out of this world.
Yep, and it has its flaws too. You know, it's not perfect. It's got the blocky shadows that have been noticed, and I personally think it's due to trying to maintain 60 frames a second, which pretty much has been happening on my end. I haven't really seen any flickers or no frame rate hiccups like some of the other titles on the PS3 or on the Xbox 360. Pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, I've had perfectly smooth sailing, as you put it, and it just seems that when it gets blocky, like maybe this is just some auto frame rate thing going on, but it does it so well. I mean, it's distracting because who wants to see the blocky graphics, but it doesn't suffer in terms of the gameplay.
And I think it's only distracting really like in B-spec mode or like, you know, when you're watching replays. It doesn't really take away from the gameplay like you said.
And I mean, again, we're saying it over and over, the graphics are so amazing. This is like the cutscenes from most other games, and that's while you're playing. So I mean, this isn't a fancy movie. This is gameplay, and it looks too good to be true.
Matter of fact, looked like the intro and cutscenes from Gran Turismo 4. We booted that up, and Gran Turismo 3, and 5 looks better than the intro scenes and all that from there.
Yeah.
So pretty amazing that we're actually playing at this level. Sounds really good in some areas. Engine note is just horrendous for most cars.
Yeah, it's just like this digitized version of whatever car you think you're in, and yeah, it's a little annoying on the car sound.
I gotta say though, the thud sound when you're getting hit by another car is probably the best thud sound I've ever felt go through a butt kicker, and between that and running that core effects.
Yeah, and you're feeling it through your whole body, not just in your butt.
Intense. You know, one of the things we've been wanting to talk to you guys about is running that core effects with the butt kicker in Gran Turismo 5. We both walked away with that buzzy feeling you get like after driving a kart.
Yeah.
Or
sea legs if you're into boats.
Yeah, or on my bike after a track day, I'd have this buzz, especially in my hands.
Yeah.
After having the grip.
And it's this head-to-toe sensation, and I always thought it was like adrenaline or heart rate issue when I get out of a go-kart or a race car, but now realizing it's just sort of more of a brain thing going on thanks to the core FX.
Yep. So that being said, again, engine sounds are pretty horrendous across the board, but on the other end, the sounds are pretty good.
Well, and you had mentioned the quantity of sounds. Some of the tire sounds, some of the scrubbing sounds, and other sounds that really added to the game, even though it wasn't the quality of the engines.
And then just another one of the overall things, tracks, not enough for me, and they're not all unlocked at the beginning of the game, but most of them are just like the most beautiful versions I've ever seen.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say is, I'm a fan of fantasy tracks, and I've always given these guys credit for some of the best fantasy tracks. I was kind of hoping they were going to pump a bunch of new ones out,
or even some of the old ones, like we ran in New York.
Yeah.
In Gran Turismo 4, and I wish would have been cool to see that in this.
Yeah.
That being said, then there's just the game, A spec, B spec. This game's really deep, and it was just too much to put in this just one episode. So we're gonna have some more shorts. We're going to go through some pros and cons here for you guys, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up. And basically, you're going to have to stay tuned for some more coverage. But we're going to, this game's just so deep. We're going to continue with more coverage of it.
And that's definitely one of the bonuses of this game is its depth. And there's just no way to do it. I mean, we turned this into a 4-hour saga.
Yeah, and speaking of hours, I mean, I probably have at least 40 hours myself.
2,000 miles.
Yeah, 2,000. Yeah, that's nothing. There's some dude on my friends list, 20,000 miles, and today is December 6th-ish or so, and the game's only been out a couple weeks. This dude's driven 20,000 miles.
I think he has his whole family. They're doing a little, shift
non-stop.
changing.
He must be doing non-stop and driver changes.
I'm not sure if that's even legal.
So why don't we go to pros and cons? No Shabammy again. We're going to do that in a future episode, and if you've never watched our show, Shabammy is our full scale rating, 1 to 100.
And if you watch our show, you know that sometimes when it comes to games of this magnitude, we're not quick to give it a score. We're not, you know what, until we've really uncovered everything, it just wouldn't be fair. And give them an opportunity to do some patch. We've already seen 3 patches to this, so there might be some major changes before we go giving it a score, like everyone else.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to still hold off on our score, unlike some of the other outlets. So anyway, let's go with pros and cons. You first.
Okay. Graphics. I mean, graphics are the best graphics out there. They have now set the standard regardless of what platform it is. There are a few things that could be fixed. I honestly wish they had left out some of those shadows because I'd have nothing to even point out in the negative.
Yeah, take out some of the stuff in the background.
Yeah, and on the graphics, I mean across the board. It's the modeling, it's the interiors, it's the tracks, it's the replays, everything about it.
The rain, smoke, dirt effects, day to night transitions. Love the go-karts and the rally physics. Love to do a 16-player go-kart race at some track. Imagine 16 go-karts at Monaco.
That would be insane.
That would be a blast. The GT Academy, they're putting a sim racer in a real car for an endurance race. I mean, I think that's really cool.
And a whole competition structure built in to support it, so that'll be good fun.
Yeah, and for a car nut, it's the ultimate game. Lots of longevity. Best physics and force feedback on the console. Models and cockpits on the premium cars, at least, are amazing. Graphics are incredible for the most part. Tracks are amazing with lots of life, lots of road feel. Definitely, I think it's one of the better GTs in regards to the user interface.
Yeah.
And
I love the interface. I think it gives you options that you can find easily, and then when you get there, it gives you more options. But it sort of takes you in a path that's much better than the previous versions.
And it's basically a role-playing game. It's a car role-playing game. You have to, it's kind of cool to search out that used, Japanese or Euro car that you need. And on the other hand, that's going to be one of my cons. It's kind of frustrating, but it's actually really cool too, because in real life, like we were talking, Sean's got a 71 240Z, Datsun 240Z.
And they have the old import category that you got to get past, and you need an old car.
And you even race against those 240Zs, but you can't buy one.
Yeah.
Unless it shows up. Who's that Justin guy?
I don't know. I went to Justin's dealer a few different times, and he never had the car I needed, but he's always changing his cars.
Yeah, who's Justin?
They need to get a second dealer or something. I don't know.
I know. Well, they have the dealer, just the regular dealer.
Right.
It doesn't have a name, but there's some Justin guy selling used cars.
This guy must be rich.
Something.
Another thing, we were sort of on the pros, finishing it up, and you alluded to it. For me, it's about the depth of this game. I love the trophy challenges. I am never content with the silver. It's like I have to get the gold. That keeps me busy. The other is the diversity, not just the depth, but I mean, you're talking the rally racing, the oval racing, the road racing.
Picking the right car for the right challenge.
Yeah, I mean, you can spend just tremendous amount of hours, and then if you start it all over again, there's no way you're going to finish the same path. So it's going to be fun a second time through.
Yeah, just like a really deep role-playing game.
Yeah, yeah.
And last, for my pros, online community is really cool. Lots of cool things, gifting cars back and forth. Oh, and the B-Spec. I like the B-Spec. I like, being able to win cars and money while, we're working around here in the studio, and it's cool to have the B-Spec going in the background, earning me money and other drivers and stuff.
I'm going to be honest, when I first kind of thought about B-Spec, I thought, whatever, who cares, it's just not... Anyway, and then, like you said, it's sort of become...
We'll sit here and watch races and root for our drivers. It's pretty cool.
It's become a new form of entertainment around here.
Cons.
Cons.
I'll start with the cons. You started with the pros.
Okay.
Can be repetitive. As much as going for those gold trophies, it may fit Sean's personality a little bit better. Mine, I'm bouncing all over the place. So I kind of want to move on, get to the next thing, quicker than Sean might. And that's not a bad trait.
No, I like being stuck on something for a long time.
He can, pay attention to the detail and focus on something longer than I can. So it fits him probably a little bit better than I do. But I still enjoy it. I enjoyed it tremendously. Multiplayer is a little shaky and lacks options. I'm hoping, since they've already patched it 3 times in the last few weeks, I'm hoping we'll see more that are going to add time trials, hoppers, and events that Polyphony's putting on. A couple other things, then I'll let you add some cons here.
All right.
There's a few songs that just drive me nuts in the game. But on the other side, on the pro side, there's a lot of songs that I did like.
Wait. This song is the one. Anybody out there who knows it, there are kids singing in the background. Please tell us what song it is.
Yeah, if you guys know, I went through 189 songs trying to get that one turned off, and I couldn't find it. Another one of my other cons, that major dead zone on the Logitech, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the touchy brakes. In today's day and age, Codemasters sets the benchmark as far as configurability with wheels on the console.
Yeah.
Polyphony, take a lesson. 5 years of development, and you guys didn't put more configurability in the wheels.
And look at how far the wheels have come, too, in that time. It's like, acknowledge your industry.
Ultimate driving sim? Come on, man. You guys need the ultimate tools to drive with.
Yeah.
So give us some, configurability in one of these patches, please. AI, not so good.
No. You can have a good race. You mentioned it today.
Yes, I had a really good race today. And then my last con, and then I will leave it to you. Vast majority of the 1,000 cars you can't drive right away, and vast majority are standard cars, so that's kind of a bummer.
You hit most of my cons. There's another big one out there, and that is the lack of damage. We alluded to it earlier.
Yeah, why even put it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the graphic things. It's like, you know what? Lie to me. Tell me you're building a car museum and you don't want the cars hurt, and that's why you didn't do it. Tell me the licensing didn't work, but don't have pseudo damage, which for a game at the level, the way they've drummed it up, I expected it to really respond to damage, and was very disappointed in that.
Yeah, that's like back at Top Sim Cars, I gave it 3/4 of a point, or half a point is what I gave it. Sean gave it a point, so it ended up 3/4. That's like going to a restaurant and having a horrible waitress or waiter and not wanting to leave a tip, but like leaving like a nickel or a dime. That's what I wanted to tell Polyphony about the damage. It almost didn't even deserve a point. It was so, I mean, it's cosmetic and there was no physical. I mean, I ran that Audi today, 160 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight at Le Mans into barriers 5 different times, spun the e-brake, hit nothing. I mean, just cosmetic. I couldn't even get the bumper to rip off.
I was in a Cup car, T-boned a guy at 200, and the next lap was still doing 200 with supposedly nose damage.
And it's just got that bumper. I mean, I hit that wall at 160, man, and I just expected carnage, and it was just like, boom! So, kind of a disappointment.
And the last one for me is sort of a nitpicky little thing. When you get into a car, it defaults to having some traction control and ABS. I hate having to do it. Once you adjust one car in your garage, it remembers it, but having to remember to do that every time I buy a car.
I thought in Prologue there was a default setting that you could turn that off, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, they need to be able to turn that off. Once in a while I want ABS, you know, in certain situations, but come on. A 50s Mercedes with ABS and traction control? What was this thing, rebuilt with the modern age equipment?
And it's so noticeable when it's on. I mean, it's like
car stops.
It's all game at that point.
Traction control and rally?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it ruins rally racing.
Okay, so any
last one real brief, and that's Justin, get more cars. I mean, I need that Datsun 240 when I need it. So
yeah, we want more cars in the, Justin needs to work on his cars.
So that's it.
All right, you know what, we're joking about Justin, everybody, so just stop freaking out. We know it says just in.
I didn't know it.
We didn't either. Tommy actually told us. We're like, what's Justin? It's like, guys, that's just in. Oh, because they're so close together.
Yeah, I guess it's his eyes, the young guy.
Yeah, young guy. Our old eyes just couldn't see. It's all blurry. So anyway, final thoughts? Or any more cons?
No more cons. I mean, final thoughts. I'm loving this game. I'm having so much fun with it.
I am too.
And it's so much more than I actually expected. And maybe a little bit short in a few areas, but overall, it's just delivering hugely for me.
Well, it's the next generation of Gran Turismo, and yeah, 5-6 years development time, way too long, especially in today's day and age. You know, Kazunori Yamauchi-san is a perfectionist, so I understand, and I can understand that too, because I'm kind of that way too, but I think they did a great job. And yeah, there's some bugs and little issues, but he said himself that this is an ongoing project, and 3 patches already in a few months, you know, that's pretty cool. That's great to see. You know, for those of you that are disappointed with it out there, I'm not. I honestly, this is one of the few games that has kept me up until 2:30 in the morning a lot the last few weeks. Yeah. Just because I'm trying to progress and get more cars, and I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, so am I.
That's going to do it.
All right, well, at least until the next one, where we will actually score the game and hopefully find a few more stones to turn over before we give you our full opinion.
Course maker, we didn't mention that. We'll mention that in the next one, and a few other things.
I almost put that on my cons list, but
yeah, it was kind of a letdown. But anyway, that's going to do it. We dig it. You don't have it yet, you got a PS3, definitely check it out. I mean, it's worth the buy. $60, all those cars and tracks, it's definitely a must-have.
I agree.
So there you have part 1 of our Gran Turismo 5 review. We will be having more for you guys as time progresses and as we make progress with the title.
And we'll be coming out with some shorts on wheel setup and a variety of things, so stay tuned for those right here on Sim Racing Tonight channel.
And for future episode, I think on our very next show, we'll be having a full shabami of F1 2010.
Long time coming. Again, like we mentioned going into this review, you know, we need to put things through through their paces, and that's a perfect case. Waited for a patch to come out. It's been patched. Got the Xbox 360 version now. PC, we're going to show you which one's the best, in our opinion, and shabami it.
And you'll also be seeing a review of this wheel that we have here, the GT2, and we actually put out a small video about that. If those of you guys who have not seen it yet, make sure to check it out. But we will be doing a full review coming very soon.
Wait a second. There was one other thing.
Speaking of wheels.
Speaking of wheels, SSCA guys, we had a big race the day after Thanksgiving here in the States. The Fanatic Carrera Club 150. 9 guys are eligible to win a Fanatic Carrera wheel and pedals and shifter.
That's right.
And you are going to draw their name on the next show.
Yep, during my pit stop segment, so make sure you look forward to that. And once again, hope you enjoy this review of Gran Turismo 5, and we will be shabamming it in the future. And for those big media outlets out there that reviewed the title so quickly,
I don't know how.
we're sorry we weren't able to do that for you guys, but we do have to do a thorough review.
We want to go in depth. They obviously didn't, so.
So we hope that you guys have enjoyed the coverage. That's going to wrap it up, and the checkered flag is out, and so are we. Promotional consideration provided by iRacing.com, the ultimate place to race online. And GamePod, the choice of champions. Go to gamepod.co.uk.